You know those days where in like the first hour, you just know that you really should go back to bed and start over tomorrow? Let me whine at you for a little bit. Allow me to set the stage of your mind. It's Friday, May 5th, 2023, and I had had a wonderful day up until about 2 p.m. when classes got out at my college in Glendale. The day before, I was ridiculously productive after 2 energy drinks and a coffee, and so had the idea planted in my mind like Inception that for me, the key to a good day is doing a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. So I overbooked this day. Next on my to-do list was interview in Burbank at 3:30 p.m., which is in an hour and a half. Glendale and Burbank are literally next to each other. There's no way it wouldn't take me more than 15 minutes. So why not squeeze another little thing to check off the old to-do list? So Susan's birthday was coming up, and I had spent the past few months working on a little birthday box for her. I thought this was a perfect time to drop it off. So after a 15-minute wait for the Uber and then the ride down to downtown, I strut out of that Uber, push open the doors full of unbridled confidence. My optimism could not have brimmed more when I saw there was nobody else in line at the post office, just me and the one worker. So I confidently stride up, drop the box off, and say, "Gimme them customs declarations forms." I'm slightly paraphrasing. Now, I filled out a custom declarations form or two in my day, let me tell you what. And these suckers have quite a few boxes. For each individual item, you have to describe them as detailed as possible, list out their exact weight down to the ounce, and provide their exact retail value. This process took me about 15 minutes, so time check, it's about 2:30 when I confidently turn around and see there's 5 people that got in line while I was working. And just one thing on the mile-high pile of Chris's grievances against the United States are the budget cuts against the National Postal Service. So they had this one poor woman working tirelessly. She was so stressed and obviously overworked, and I don't mean this in an ageist way. Please take this in the most charitable interpretation possible. She was of the age where she should not still be forced to be working. Remember that in a minute, because this took so long. But this did provide me a little bit of an opportunity. So at the very beginning of this month, your boy made a mistake and thought he was on Wi-Fi during his nightly YouTube binge. He was not. Burned through me and my grandmother's shared data plan entirely. So for the entire month, we've been surviving on that emergency data plan where it's dial-up internet speeds. And let me tell you what, the apps are not designed to load that slowly. But I knew that I was running out of time and would have to immediately bolt after dropping this box off to the Uber, to Burbank, to the cafe that this interview was going to take place. And I kid you not, it literally took me the entire length of time waiting in that line to finally get it to the final loading screen where it actually sent out the call to look for drivers. So when I'm finally able to walk up and drop the box off on the counter, time check, it's about 2:45. But the problem with these customs declarations forms is they're just like when you submit a resume to an online job application and then immediately have to retype all of that same information that you just put in your resume into the actual website itself. And it's why don't you just read the resume? That's exactly this poor woman who I love and respect so much had to manually retype absolutely everything I had written down, word for word, letter by letter. And she did not know how to type fast. She was a sight typer. So every single letter, she had to look at her keyboard and be boop, boop. And that's when I got a notification on my phone that at any other point in time would have sent waves of joy through my body. And that was that the Uber had arrived and was 400 feet away. When an Uber driver arrives, the app gives you 2 minutes to get in their car, regardless of what you were doing before. So you gotta time when you call one perfectly well. And I still had quite a while to wait at this rate. In this moment, I was being pressed from both sides of the social pressure. I messaged this driver and said, hey, look, I'm dropping off this package. I'm almost done. I'll be right outside. And he was like, okay. And then I turned to the lady and said, is there any way that I could just like pay now and you can input all of this information after I leave? Because I have somebody waiting on me that is like parked outside with their hazards on. And she's like, nope. Sorry, like this is just the way it needs to be. 15 minutes! Now, I know that does not sound like a lot of time, but when you are just standing there in oppressive silence, feeling the air pressure weigh down upon you because you have two different, it was the most excruciating length of time in my entire life. I am so sorry for the poor Uber driver who, just out of the goodness of his heart, waited for me for 15 minutes. Literally the second that the card kiosk was like, bling, I immediately start running out the door. She calls out to me, do you want your receipt? And I was like, ah, crap. Because I need the tracking number. So I turn around, grab it from her hand, and then sprint out the door, like apologizing profusely and practically groveling and kissing the ground at which my Uber driver is going to drive upon. Okay, well, that didn't go particularly as planned, and in the stress, I had not looked at my Uber app to see what the estimated time would be, but literally Burbank and Glendale are next to each other. Usually it takes it's like a 15-minute drive. It's now 3 o'clock. It should be fine. I open it up and look and realize it is a half-hour drive. I am going to arrive exactly at 3:30. It is so unprofessional to arrive to an interview after they do. I should have just not. I tried to fit too much in one day, but you know what? Nothing I can do about it now. I just have to try and relax. My way to do that is by grabbing my noise-canceling headphones to play some music. So I reach for them. Oh no. Now, this is absurdly privileged for me, absolutely, but these headphones carry a lot of personal meaning for me. Ever since visiting my father, who had a pair in like 2017 of these incredibly noise-canceling headphones that he used every day for his morning meditation, I was so jealous. I saved up in 2020 almost the entire year to gift them for a little like birthday gift for myself, and I used them minimum of twice a day on the bus. Whenever I would go into a store and just was feeling stimulated, they are my saving grace. I use these headphones. I love them. And I had just left them at the downtown post office. But it was too late. Like, I have my interview. There's nothing so the only thing I can do is call the post office and say, hey, I was just in there. Please tell me there's a pair of headphones on the counter. Can you hold them? And the same lady is like, no, I don't see them. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Well, you know what? They're just headphones, and this interview is more important. I just have to suck it up, put on a smile, and get through this. So at 3:30, I dive roll out of this Uber and sprint to the cafe, and there's only one issue. Once I arrive, I realize it is all barred up and locked up. I had just assumed that this place would be open at 3:30 in the afternoon. It is not. If there's one point to this entire story, it is do your homework, do your research before you make plans with someone. Just do a little Google search. But what's weird is there's no one around. So I sit on a nearby bench and literally ask like every person they walk by if they are the person that I'm going to interview with. So as you can see, my social anxiety is having a great day. Everyone said no. And after about 30 minutes, I had to admit to myself that I guess they ghosted me. Like, there's no point in waiting around. Great. I mean, I guess I have an extra half hour to do with my life, whatever I want. I wonder if I should go back to the post office and just see with my own eyes that it's not there. I almost talked myself out of it, but just essentially screw it. What else am I going to do? I call another Uber to go all the way back to Glendale, which, because we're getting closer and closer to 5 o'clock, took about 45 minutes. It's 4:45 when I get out of the Uber finally there. I notice the sign on the door that the post office closes in 15 minutes as I stroll in, and I'm frantically doing like a full cavity examination of this post office, under every desk, under every cabinet, behind every, like everywhere, and I don't see anything. I even go up and ask one of the janitors, like, hey, by any chance? And he's like, sorry, bud, I haven't seen anything. My last Hail Mary was the fact that the same woman, bless her heart, was still behind the counter and still dealing with customers. So I wait in the line, the very long line, and I finally get to the front. And I say, look, I was here earlier. I was like the stressful one. Is there any chance, like, is there a lost and found box? And she's like, I'll go check it. Which I didn't know that they had a lost and found box at the post office, but she emerges triumphantly a few minutes later with these bad boys. If I understand correctly, at some point either her supervisor or like another coworker came in and saw these, dropped them off in the lost and found box, and then left. So she had no idea. Talk about a W. As I was leaving the post office, like the weight of the world lifted from my shoulders, the janitor I asked before turned to me and said, kid, you better buy a lottery ticket. I have never seen that happen before. And that's when I got the reminder on my phone that the movie that I had originally booked to celebrate my interview gone well, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was gonna be coming up, so I better skedaddle over to it. And I'm like, great, time to head to the movie theater that's right by my house, because obviously that's where I booked the tickets, right? Nope. That morning I thought that I was still gonna be in Burbank, so I took I had to get another Uber back to Burbank. I have spent so much money today on Uber, and I'm still not done. I'm gonna have to go back home after the movie, which started at 7 p.m. And so if there's one thing I am so thankful, and I think Uber has really hit the nail on the head with, it is scheduled rides. The default Uber experience is wonderful when it's kind of impromptu, when you decide you're done at the bar, or you want to, like, spur the moment, go to the museum. But when a situation where you know that you're going to be leaving somewhere at a specific time, like, oh, it's 4 a.m, I got to get to the airport. There's going to be no one around in my area at 4 a.m. unless I specifically make arrangements ahead of time with a driver, so they will arrive at 4 a.m. What a genius thing that Uber does not do. If I understand it correctly, that just means that Uber puts a little delay on when it sends out the blast that it's looking for drivers for you. Like, doesn't my idea make so much more sense? Like, if you were a driver for Uber, wouldn't you rather prefer to get a ding that says, hey, would you love to pick up this person at this time? Would you like to meet them there? Rather than, it just treats it like it's a new request, like 30 minutes before the scheduled time is, so that if there happens to not be anyone that just so happens to be out, you're still screwed. Anyway, that didn't happen, thankfully. I went ahead and scheduled my Uber for 10, but you know what? It was such a beautiful movie, especially, I assume, the end, because I was taken out of it a little bit. An entire half hour before my request was even supposed to be sent out, my driver texted me and said, hey, I'm here outside with my hazards on. And then continued to spam with 3 to 5 minute breaks in between, but my watch was constantly vibrating the entire time. Thankfully, nobody else could hear it, but I could sure feel it constantly. What is this? And this isn't his fault. And I don't think it's my fault either, because this is a full half hour. I think it was Uber. They just they sent out the alert way too early. And once again, I made a poor Uber driver wait for half an hour right in front of the theater with their hazards on, just waiting for me. And when I finally stepped out into that frigid downtown air, saw my Uber driver in the front, Walked up, opened the door, said, "Hey, I'm Chris. Sorry to keep you waiting." And he goes, I'm sorry? No, not you. I'm really sorry that I made you wait, and I totally get that you're upset, but like, I called you at 10, or I meant to call you at 10. And then another couple comes up from behind me, says thank you for me holding the door open for them, gets in, and the driver peels off. And I'm just kind of like, a bit stunned at this. Like, I don't know how to process this. And then he texts me, while driving, I might add, that he's sorry. He was like waiting for so long that he decided to take another couple in between when he arrived and me coming out there. You know what? Fair. So I'm just kind of stranded downtown, like at 10 o'clock at night, right on like next to the road, just waiting and hoping, because I can't check in the app. He still has accepted my ride, so I can see his location theoretically, but it won't load because the data plan. So I'm just hoping that he'll accept and come back for me, which to his credit he did. And I got home safely, collapsed in bed, and fell asleep immediately. And that was the story of my worst day yet this year. Moral of the story: A, do your research, do your homework when you're trying to make plans with someone. And B, don't try. Like, a good day is not just trying to cram as much as possible into 24 hours. That's not realistic. But up to a certain extent, you are responsible for your own schedule, the plans that you make for yourself. And so I've tried to use that day as a lesson in that. Literally yesterday, I had like an hour's span of time, and a friend asked if I can like take some photos in that little hour span. I was like, you know what? Okay, it takes me 15 minutes to get to my friend, 15 minutes to get back. I could do it in about 45 minutes if I really try. If anything goes wrong, I'll be screwed. But I think or I can just ask if they can do it tomorrow. And they could. And it was such peace of mind. I hope that works. Does that work as a moral, as a point to this story? So it wasn't just Chris whining the entire time. What has been your worst day experience? We can all kind of whine and complain together. Stay positive! Editing Chris here. I just realized, never mentioned that the interview person actually messaged me later that night and said, sorry, they had a family emergency pop up, and like, that's very fair. You know, if that happened, then to me, the interview would be the last thing on my mind. So all good, no hate, we rescheduled, and it actually went perfectly smoothly the other day. So